What's going on, everyone? BouseFeenux here with a brand new video, and I just wanted to let you guys know that Overwatch, Blizzard's massively successful first-person team-based shooter, is going to be free to play this weekend on PS4, Xbox, and PC from November 18th to November 21st. Now, there's a good chance a lot of you are super familiar with Overwatch by now, but in case you aren't, and this is your first time jumping in, I've gone ahead and put together a list of tips that should help you get the most out of the game this weekend. Keep in mind, I'm not a pro at this game by any means, but I've put more than a few hours into it, and these are a few things that I've picked up from pros and other players. That being said, let's jump in. Alrighty, so kicking things off with tip number one of the most basic and important UI elements in Overwatch is the kill feed. It's that little scrolling box in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and it shows you in real time who's killing who. Enemies are displayed as red-named characters and allies' names are blue. The kill feed is read left to right as so-and-so killed so-and-so. Obviously, this may seem like a really stupid thing to mention, but kill feeds are common in other multiplayer shooter games, and they often go ignored. A lot of times, they're just more white noise to take up your HUD space, but in Overwatch, with only 12 players total in a match, knowing who's dead and who's alive is extremely important information. If you see a lot of your teammates dying on the kill feed, it's probably a good idea to hang back and regroup. Conversely, if the enemy is getting hammered, it's more than likely a good chance to push forward. So turn your kill feed on in the UI options if it isn't already by default, and make sure to pay attention to it. Our second item on the list here is probably one of the most important aspects of Overwatch, and that is hero switching. Overwatch isn't really a game where you main a character. You'll be most rewarded if you know how to play a few different characters in a few different roles. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't have to be awesome at every character in the game, but Overwatch works on a rock, paper, scissors kind of system where some heroes are really good at countering others, and if you find yourself in a situation where you're playing a hero that's getting constantly countered by another hero, don't be afraid to switch it up and counter back. Your team will thank you. Tip number 3 on our list is another seemingly obvious tip, but you'd be surprised how many people forget this one. Our number 3 tip is to communicate with your team. Now, this may surprise you, but people actually talk to each other in Overwatch. Imagine that. If you have a mic, make sure you're in a party voice chat, and even if you aren't going to talk, it's really important to at least listen to your team. They'll call out ultimates, enemy player positions, and when to push or fall back. A team that actually talks to one another has a way better chance of winning than a team that doesn't. Lastly, don't be afraid to ask about things like team composition. If you aren't sure which character to pick in a given situation, a lot of players are more than happy to help you out with that. Moving on to our number 4 tip, I definitely want to mention that playing the objective is extremely important to your success. A lot of new players approach Overwatch like it's Battlefield or Call of Duty and think that most kills or damage done means I win the game. Overwatch is objective-based, meaning that you'll either be pushing a payload, capturing a point, or doing a hybrid of the two. There is no team deathmatch here, and your kill streak isn't nearly as important as pushing the payload. So always take the action that's going to help your team get closer to the objective, and yes, sometimes that means killing, but sometimes it also just means that you need bodies on the point, which brings us to our next tip, which is stick together with your teammates. I can't stress this enough. Now, don't take it to the extreme and be right on top of each other, because some AoE ultimates can really ruin your day, but always be near your buddies so you can help out. Again, Overwatch is a team game. This isn't a solo shooter like Titanfall or Battlefield or Call of Duty. You really want to work together with people to win matches. Assist your friends and people will love you. Next up, for our number 6 tip, I highly recommend trying as many characters as you can. If you're playing during the free weekend, you've only got a couple of days to check the game out, and it's a good idea to experience everything it has to offer. When I first started playing Overwatch, I had the problem of judging a book by its cover. If I didn't like the way a character looked, I generally avoided them, but after playing with some of those very same characters, I learned that I was actually a stronger player with some of them. I know Genji's character looks cool as fuck, but try playing some of the others. You might be surprised at how much you like them. Tip number 7 is something that used to be almost unique to Overwatch, but here lately it's been cropping up in other multiplayer games as well, and that is the fact that you have unlimited ammo. Don't be afraid to unload magazine after magazine. If you see an enemy, aim for head level or center mass with some characters, and keep shooting until they fall down. Everything is governed by cooldowns in Overwatch, so as long as you can stay alive through reload animations and ability cooldowns, you'll never have to worry about resources, so feel free to fire away. Moving on though, our number 8 tip is to know your maps. Duh, obviously, right? Well, with only a couple of days to play, if you're participating in the free weekend, it might be a little difficult to learn every map like the back of your hand, but the most important thing you can do is learn where as many health packs are as possible. You may not always be able to get a heal in time, and grabbing a health pack is a super useful tactic that can turn the tide of a push. My best advice for doing this is just to enter a private game and run around a couple of the maps. Always know where you can duck out of a fight to heal up. Moving on to tip number 9, audio plays a massive part in this game, and headphones are important but not required. You can tell a lot of what's happening in any given Overwatch game by just audio cues alone. For example, enemy footsteps, ultimate call-out lines, and weapon sounds are far louder than your teammates, and you'll almost always be able to hear something before you see it. As an added pro tip, whenever an enemy uses an ultimate, they'll have an alternate line of dialogue, and on top of that, if the character isn't a native English speaker, that line will be in their native dialogue. For example, Mei will shout her ultimate in Chinese, Hanzo says his in Japanese, and so on. For the English-speaking characters, you'll just have to get used to what they say when they're on your team versus the enemy team, because the dialogue is different for each one. Lastly, our 10th and final tip for getting the most out of Overwatch this weekend is to pick up and play a damn support character. You may not be the best at healing or tanking, but so many people jump straight to the DPS and defense characters without taking a look at the team comp. You don't always have to do this, obviously, but if you see your team composition filling up with offense characters and you've got no tank or healer, try picking one up for the match to help your team out, because it's very hard to win a match without support characters on your team. But that's gonna do it for me today, folks. I hope you all had fun out there this weekend, and hopefully at least one of these tips helps you get a little more out of your time with Overwatch. If you plan on playing this weekend, feel free to add me as a friend on Battle.net. I play on PC, and I'll put my info in the description below. Lastly, if you enjoyed this video, consider liking it, sharing it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a video. Until next time though, I'm BouseFeenux, I'll see you at the next video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.